Welcome, everyone. Beautiful day in Southport. Thank you for being here for our special called Board of Aldermen meeting for March 24th, 2021. If you would, please join us in the invocation by Reverend Lowe Davis, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for the blessings you bestow upon Southport. We ask your guidance and wisdom in helping us to make good and right decisions for the city of Southport, all who live here, all who work here, and all who visit here. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend Davis. Item D, approval of the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you, and it is a very limited agenda, and these are the issues that we will only be talking about today. So I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem and a second by Mr. Lombardi. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. All right. Our first order of business is the change order for the Howe Street sewer project, and there's two parts to this, Part A and Part B. And I will call on Mr. Tom Stanley from Public Service, but I just briefly want to introduce it. The first part is about a compaction services requirement in terms of the street where they have been working. I assume it has to be packed down to a certain level and that type thing, and the DOT has these specifications. The second resolution, item B, and again you have this information in your packet, this is the change in the cost of paving. Again, specifications per DOT require different material and that type thing for the resurfacing of those patched areas. So the change in the cost of paving is what we will need to look at and have a resolution to approve. And the reason we're having to do this, of course, is because of the increased cost. So, Mr. Stanley, if you would come up and give us some information on this, and we'll look forward to hearing your presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. As the mayor said, and you guys know and have in front of you, there's been a few changes to the Howe Street sewer project. Good luck. A few changes to the Howe Street sewer project. The first one was a compaction contract with a environmental specialist that does lift compactions for it, to make sure everything's up to NCDOT standards. And what that is anytime our contractor is working or digging or backfilling, there has to be an inspector on site the whole time. And what they're there to inspect, since it's an NCDOT road, is to make sure that the backfill is going in the correct lifts. They're making sure that the pipe is haunched correctly, which means the pipe, there's no voids around the pipe to create a pothole, in the future. Also, in specified lifts, I do not know the specs by heart, they do a compaction testing to make sure that is getting 99% compaction. And that is a contract that or proposal that gives us 10 hours a day. That includes travel for the next 18 weeks, which will hopefully be the duration of this project. They will be there for the duration, and like I said, they will be doing their compaction tests. Or I don't know if they drew balloon tests and other type of tests to make sure it's compacted. The moisture content is correct. Also, the asphalt compaction as well to DOT standards. Yes, Lay. Oh, I'm finished. Thank you.
How is it that this is coming to us now some 4 or 5 months after the project has been started? I mean, if I hear you correctly and read this correctly, we now are we're having to spend some money doing something that we should have been doing from day one. So what happened?
I wish I had a good answer for you but what happened was, we started planning this project, I believe probably dates back to 2019, maybe in 2018, I'm not sure, but definitely a few years ago. And during the planning process, with the engineer and, other city staff, we did a lot of information grabbing and made phone calls. And with one of our phone conversations with a DOT member here for Brunswick County, we specifically asked if we needed any type of extra permitting for this project. And at that time, we had a standing encroachment for repair and maintenance, which means we didn't have to call them if we had repair maintenance, to the sewer lines, water line, or infrastructure within DOT roads. And we were informed that this falls under repair and maintenance, and no other permit or encroachment was needed. So we proceeded on thinking we had all the information we needed, and our engineer proceeded on as well. Come to find out, we found an email after that conversation. Engineer asked the city to make follow-up, get it in writing that we were good to go. So the Public Works Director found some correspondence dated a few years back that stated that we didn't need any type of permits for repair and maintenance. So we thought, along with the engineer thought, as well as and finance director, our grant writer was there, as well as the former city manager and our grant writer. We were all under the assumption that we had everything we needed, and we moved on.
But now it turns out that we have an issue with encroachment. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
We were supposed to have an inspector on site at all times. Is that correct?
Ma'am.
And we did not use the right compaction and do it correctly?
No, ma'am. The compaction is fine. There's no problems with what's been out there to date.
Good.
It's just there wasn't anybody out there to verify, to inspect it. City staff has been on site most of the time while they were digging. Not every single minute, but city staff has been on most of the time. So they've been doing the job correctly. They're just not the proper reporting the NCDOT likes to see for their primary roads.
But what is the change order for? I know
The change order is for proposal for ECS, the environmental company, which you have in front of you, to come out and do the compaction testing per NCDOT standards. ECS Southeast is what it's called. To the NCDOT standards at their compaction schedule, and we're receiving reports as well as I'm forwarding them to the engineer. So at the end of the project, they will be forwarded to NCDOT, so they have written documentation that everything is compacted the way it's supposed to be.
Is anything that has already been done going to have to be torn up and redone?
I do not have that answer right now.
Do you know when you might have it?
As soon as we get the full, we're still corresponding with NCDOT. We have not received full correspondence. We're taking the shots as we get them. That's all I know to do right now. But I have the idea that they may expect that to be not necessarily test for compaction, but to bring it up to their asphalt standards.
What would that process entail?
It would
just
entail
mean adding more on top of what?
No,
you've
it would
done?
entail the old specs from the engineer, from our approved stamp plans. There was two options. The options that was chosen, the most economical options, was 16 inches ABC stone and 2 8-inch compacted lifts, which have been done, and 2 inches asphalt, whatever top coat they want, with all their definitions and abbreviations. And that's what was done. So what that would entail is if DOT requires it, for that to be cut out, dug out, and put back to their standards they want now. And that would be the Nash to West Street block,
What about the
Moore Street intersection.
Moore Street to Bay and
From Moore to
Nash?
Bay, outside of the DOT right-of-way limits, is a city street. So we would not necessarily require them to do that because that's our street.
I thought all of Howe was.
No, ma'am. South Howe is Southport.
Thank goodness.
That's the small silver lining. Yes, ma'am.
Tom, I got a question.
Yes.
Wouldn't the contractor, knowing that he is on a state road, be aware of all this right from the beginning?
The contractor was going by the contractor bid it just like every other contractor who bid it. They bid it by the specifications. Well, the question was the contractor, but the engineer, depending on when he received or where he received his DOT specs, because the DOT specs, if you look, you should have it in your packet, the old detail, they are for NC DOT primary roads. So the detail he gave us was for NC DOT primary road. I do not know the age of that. I do not know where he pulled it from, but being a seasoned engineer, you know, I have no initials behind my name. Him being a seasoned engineer, you know, just like everybody else, past board who was involved with this, took it that he's an engineer, he certified it, he knew exactly what, you know, to spec. The short answer to that is no, ma'am.
Tom, what's out there now in the street as far as the pavement?
The pavement they done, John Allen, was the 16 inches of ABC stone and 2 inches of top coat.
So DOT is asking us to replace it with something greater than what is
it is,
existing.
Exactly. They want 8 inches of what they call it black base. I do not know the compound. 4 inches of 4 inches of the black base, 3 inches of intermediate asphalt, and then 3 inches of fine heavy-duty asphalt to bear the load of the heavy traffic on 211.
And given that we're digging up, what, a third of the width of the street?
Yes, sir.
That really makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I mean, have we attempted to push back on DOT with this?
We haven't received full permitting from them yet. That is, I had conversation or email correspondence just before this meeting, and that is expected to be done within the next few days. They had a meeting yesterday, and we're soon to get our full permit, which will then outline every single thing they expect.
Does that mean that we're at a standstill right now?
No, ma'am, we have to move forward. We have to move forward. After this meeting, I hope I get to go ahead, and as soon as I get to go ahead, yay or nay, if I get to go ahead, I'll be calling the contractor and telling them to proceed so we can open up the 100 block of Howe Street. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'd really like to encourage us to do absolutely everything we can and then some to try to push back on this paving thing. I get the having somebody on site to do the compaction testing, but to replace a minority portion of the existing road with something that's much, much greater than what is existing is just the height of absurdity to me. And I mean, we really, I mean, before we spend a dime doing that, I think we need to really push back on DOT. I mean, I'd love to know what their justification is for that, because there's no way anybody can justify that.
Well, I believe the only justification they have now is their new details. And of course, nobody knows what was underground until it was dug up. But there's definitely much more than 2 inches of asphalt there now, or 3 inches of asphalt there now. But I mean, how many times has Howe Street been? You know, how many times has Howe Street been paved over the X number of years. You know, contractors probably pulling out 6 to 8 inches of asphalt right now.
If we were digging up what they want us to put back down, that's fine, but to try to force us to put back more than what's there is ridiculous.
I'd like to see us push back and try to recover some of the money we're now going to have to spend that we have not budgeted for. And push back as far as how did this come to pass and who's responsible for it, and it appears that the engineer, it started with the engineer and the specifications. The contractor followed those specifications, and now here we are. I mean, these specifications that the DOT requires are not new news, are they? I mean, haven't they been in place a long time?
I do not have the date, but I would imagine they're not new. Yes, ma'am.
So it starts with the engineer, and I think we need to have a serious discussion about how we recover some of our money.
Yes, we certainly, that certainly is in our future, and we are in discussion with DOT. But let's get back to the, and this is all great discussion, great points, and we certainly will be focusing on these issues certainly at a later time. But if you look on page 12 in your packet, there's a resolution concerning the hiring. What we're doing right now is the hiring of a inspector for the compaction services, which is required, by DOT. And if you would look at that, and it's just something we have to do to move forward. Is that not right, Mr. Stanley?
Yes, Mayor, it is.
Okay, and so there's really not a debate over whether or not we do this or not. Is that correct?
Sir, it has to be done.
So if you will look at that resolution, and I will, you'll see what the cost is. Contract price is $72,287. And I would entertain a motion that the Board of Aldermen approve this resolution authorizing the contract with ECS Southeast and authorizing the city manager and mayor to execute the contract and all other related documents as presented. And again, this is to have the inspector there so the project can move forward, which is required by DOT.
Approval of the resolution authorizing contract with ECS Southeast LLP.
I'll second that, even though I gotta say that I think that maybe we have to go forward with this to keep the project going, that's for sure. But I think the contractor too has some obligation. He should have known if they do DOT work. I did that my whole life, and we were totally responsible for that. So I know it's different down here, but I'm just saying. So I think the contractor is partly to blame for that.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Allen and a second by Mr. Lombardi. Is there any further discussion? Madam Lowe Davis.
Why this firm?
Ma'am?
Why them?
Why
Did-
them?
Did we bid this?
I did not. These guys come highly recommended. They work with DOT. They're actually, when I had discussions with DOT, they were recommended. When I had discussion with the engineer, he recommended them, and the contractor has worked for them before. So they're really familiar, and during the time I was in a crunch to try and make something happen to keep things from being shut down. So these were the people I called.
I feel like we've got a gun to our heads here. If we don't approve this here and now, then, things are gonna come to a halt. But to Alderman Allen's point, I mean, shouldn't they have known? If they're that good, shouldn't they have known?
This is an increase of material cost more than the fee of the inspector being here for a year and a half, right?
This price here is just for the inspector.
This
just
is
for the
not
inspection
materials.
report.
This is
This
for the
nothing to do with
inspector
materials.
to be there. Yeah.
The first
Okay,
resolution,
We're on item
Okay, all
A,
right.
Resolution
All right, I'm
A,
looking at the second one, I apologize.
that's okay. Yeah, the first resolution,
page 12.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes, sir, I got you, thank you.
is for the compaction.
Okay,
What are our options? I
What are our
if-
options?
If we don't approve this, what would you then do?
What would we then do?
Yeah.
Stop the project, hold our heads down, tuck our tails between our legs, and move forward. I mean, you want an honest answer? I mean, that's as honest as I could get for you. I don't think we have an option
Yeah.
to move forward with the project.
I mean, that's why we call the special meeting. This is something that really has to be done, and we can have further discussions as to how it happened, why it happened, especially with the Resolution B. But the importance of today is to move the project forward. We don't want not having an inspector to halt this project.
Well, I'm reluctant to approve hiring somebody that has proven to not be able to provide good service.
I used ECS for any part of this project previously. They're not
So
the
they-
engineer that did the
all right,
design.
They're new to this?
Yes, they are.
And I'm very familiar with ECS, and they're an excellent company. I've worked with them a lot in the past.
They,
So
they
we-
come highly recommended by every resource I talk to. There are other ones out there, but they come highly recommended, and during the time crunch, I honestly didn't have time to waste.
Okay.
I
Alderman
think I
Sharkey?
misunderstood your answer. I'd
I
asked,
apologize.
shouldn't they have known?
When you said contractor, I was thinking that shouldn't our sewer contractor have known they needed somebody? My apologies
No,
for misunderstanding.
ECS is not culpable here, right?
No, and
Okay.
and Alderman Allen has vouched for them, so we know they're good. I go with his recommendation. Alderman Sharkey?
Tom, just final. So this is not a service that the 274 construction group can provide on their own, right? They
No,
have to
ma'am.
have an oversight, quality control, third party or something, right?
Exactly. If
Okay.
it was their responsibility, then they could certainly twist it to where it benefited those guys. Yes,
And I
ma'am.
guess the only other question, because we didn't bid it, this is a finance officer question, really. We're within our authority to go ahead and enter into this contract for this project?
It's a service. You don't have to bid services.
Okay, so just covering that, we got that all out in the open. We're doing it in the right way, we're not, underhanded or anything like that. And we have to do this for this project to move forward. We don't have a choice, we have to have a quality control representative. This is a good one, reliable one, and they can start the job right away, right? Thank you.
Yeah, I think we had established that. Very good summation. Anyone else? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, resolution carried, motion carried. Thank you. All right, Mr. Stanley, if we will move to the second resolution authorizing the change order for the Howe Street sewer project
Yes, sir.
in terms of the,
Yes, sir.
changing cost of paving.
So you all should have the old and new details in front of you in your packet. Not to rehash it, but it was 2 inches before with the stone, and now it's the 3, and 4. The original bid price was at 6,900 square yards of asphalt at $65 per square yard. With the updated specs, the new cost is $125 a square yard at the $6,900 bid quantities. It takes the price from $448,500 to, which was original, to the $862,500, which at this point is a $414,000 change order. Yes, for the asphalt, yes, ma'am. Which is why they haven't paved the previous section. They had to go back and change it due to the late detail submittal. They were prepared to asphalt last week or earlier this week. It was last week. But I did stop that because there was no need for them to pave another street for it to be tore up. so I'm responsible for stopping that and having them
No,
dig it out
that
to
was,
current
that was the
specifications.
right decision. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Stanley,
Thank you, sir.
for doing that. That was fantastic. And basically, they are not going to move forward until we pass this resolution. They're not going to.
They will not pave, no, sir.
Tom, in regards to, what block is currently, I'm sorry, sitting there open?
The 100 block, the block between Moore Street and Nash Street, in the Nash Street
Right.
intersection, that's the block that's not paved.
Is there, could we put gravel in there and open it up temporarily?
Well, I mean, we could. We just took the gravel out of it. I mean, certainly we could spare more expense to put gravel back into it when we have the gravel, and then turn around once this is hashed out and spare more expense to dig it back out, back down to.
I mean, is the plan, hang on just a second, and if we don't do that, then what's the plan? Is the plan to leave it for an extended period of time as it is now, or is to go back and put this in it?
If you guys decide not to approve this resolution, then I will do whatever you advise me to do.
But if we do approve the resolution, is the plan to go back and put in the 3-3-3-3-4-4-4-4?
Exactly. Oh, I'm sorry. As soon as we approve the resolution, if that's what happens, I'll be calling the contractor and hopefully have it paid by the end of the week.
And then that block, the
That block
first
will be opened up.
will be okay.
Yes, ma'am. And that'll move us forward to the right path to, have everything else correct.
And then you move to,
We're at the 300 block,
Nash
which is
to west-west,
where
west-west.
where Nash to west-west has been paved. That's something we'll have to deal with another time if need be. But right now, they're currently pouring asphalt to 300 block, which is between west-west and Brown Street.
Is it going back to the block between Moore and Bay, or Moore and Nash? Is it cheaper to put, I'm trying to figure out what would be more cost effective. Let's assume we're able to eventually have reality and common sense and decency prevail, and we don't have to do the 3-4-4 paving. So is it cheaper to, in the short run, just put down some gravel, knowing we're going to have to go pull it out and replace it with 2 inches of paving? Or is it cheaper to just go ahead and put in the more extensive, dig out what's there and put in the more expensive paving?
Well, what's already there has already been dug out to accept the new paving. That's where it's sitting right now. It's sitting 10 inches deep, to the surface, in preparation to accept the new paving.
Will accept that? DOT will accept that?
It's dug down to what level it has to be to get to 433. It's dug down to that level right now. It was compacted. It was graded to the 16 inches of ABC to accept the 2 inches of asphalt. I stopped it because there wasn't no need in having to dig up 2 intersections or two blocks. I stopped it, had them pull it out in preparation to do it the right way.
Did you say that if we approve this, that could all be finished by the end of this week?
That is very good possibility.
And then that whole block could open up?
That block will open up. As soon as I can get it paved, it'll open up.
Without having to put in gravel or anything?
It's ready
temporarily?
for their 433. It's ready for the new specifications.
This is Wednesday,
This is Wednesday.
so by Monday, this would be open?
That's what we're hoping.
The
My
inspector,
hopes have been the wind has been let out of my sails so far. But I have high hopes that the contractor assured me when I spoke to him that he could get this paved immediately. But that doesn't say that here it is. Here's what the bottom line is with this. The contractor was scheduled to come in at X number of days, at an X day. We stopped that X day. Paving contractor may have moved on to another project. He can't sit there and wait for us to make a decision. So can I absolutely guarantee that it will be paved this week? But I was told by the contractor that it's very good possibility that he feels he could get it paved immediately.
we approve this, inspector's here tomorrow morning to inspect the compaction, you start paving. Is that basically what you're saying?
As soon as I make a phone call to the contractor, I will know exact when they can pave.
But our compression testing group will come in and test
Yes, sir.
that ASAP.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions? Okay. I will entertain a motion that the resolution in support of the change order increasing the cost of asphalt paving to this bigger number, $862,500, and authorizing the city manager and/or the mayor to execute any necessary contracts and required documents as presented.
I'll move that we approve the resolution authorizing the change order for the Howe Street Sewer Project. And I'll just add, not as a condition of that, but just I want us to take and exhaust every conceivable avenue and possibility of changing DOT's edict that we go with this new paving detail.
So noted in the motion. Any
I'll second
second?
that.
Second by Mr.
I
Lombardi.
just hope that in the future, we're a little more careful with this.
Any other discussion? Any other comments? Okay. Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stanley. You can make that call and tell them to please start rolling.
Yes, sir.
That would be great. Thank you.
Mr. Stanley.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Being that there's no further business before the board for our special meeting, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Allen and Mayor Pro Tem, all in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you again, Tom Stanley. Thank you.